Right, so honestly, I didn't think this video was necessary, but after reading some comments on Reddit, as of late, there seems to be a slight confusion when it comes to how to handle builds and what other people build. So the topic of this video will be, what do you do if someone doesn't build the way you know it, or the way you expect them to build, or just generally doesn't seem to know what to build? First of all, what you should absolutely not do is, oh my god, you're not building like Set Pro or whatever Duke Sloth recommended or whatnot. That's completely wrong. It's not going to get you anywhere. None of the pros and none of the theory crafters promotes that kind of behavior as far as I know. And especially I want to stress that to me it's very important to keep an open mindset towards other builds that have not been tried yet and not judge builds prematurely. I've done plenty of weird builds, some more or less successful, and those builds would have been heavily criticized by some of the people I played with if it wasn't me, I guess. So that's something I find very, very problematic. Yes, there are items that are just plain wrong on certain characters. You do not want to build Hasten Fatalis on Kronos, for example. It's just not good. You want to avoid building Executioner and Titan's Bane together. It's not very synergistic and it kind of counters each other. But those are niche issues, so to speak. Most items that are made for a character can work decently on that character if utilized in the right way. And there are plenty of builds that no one has ever spoken about that can work well under the right circumstances, with the right gameplay plan behind it and the right ability leveling and whatnot. Things you don't know about. What you should not do is BM someone because you think that build's not gonna work. I know I've done it in the past. I've BM'd people for building shit builds. But that's not because I wanted to actually help them. That was at a point where I was already tilted. Somebody insulted me and I was like, look man, you can talk shit about me all you want, but your build fucking sucks. But there's no actual benefit in that. There's nothing you gain out of that. You're not gonna win your game because of that. That's simply returning BM to somebody who BMs, which you shouldn't do anyways, but you know, that's just a natural human reaction for many people. My point is that you should not criticize someone for a build if you have any intention of still winning that game and making it work, or maybe even actually try to get that person on the right path. All you should do is, if you see someone building something that you think is not working, is ask the person if they need help with their build. Like, it's as simple as, yo, Kronos, do you want some help with your build? Or are you fine? Because in the end, some people just don't know what to build. Some people have never played a character, some people just aren't too familiar with builds, and they are thankful for advice. So if you offer them advice, they might be willing to take it. They might be like, yeah, sure, help me please. Thank you very much for offering. I really don't know what to do with this character. This might be the case sometimes. Often it will not. Often they will just be like, fuck you, no, whatever. But that's fine too. Then just leave the topic, drop it. Done. Alright, they don't want help. They're not going to be helped. They're not going to be willing to take in any kind of information from you. They're not going to take any advice. They're not going to take any advice from you, any authority in that regard that you quote, anyone else. They're not interested in it. They want to play their game. They want to build their stuff done. That can suck for you because maybe they actually have a really bad build and they just don't understand it. And you can't do anything about it really. But in the end, that's all you can do. You cannot force someone to build something specific, no matter how bad the build they have may be. You should not do anything beyond that. You should not tell a person, look, this item is really bad, why the fuck are you building it? That's not going to help. Maybe they have an idea why they're building it, maybe they don't. But if you say it that way, they're going to be like, whoa, okay, man, even if that item sucks, you already criticized me in a bad way, now I have like a bad impression of you, so I'm not going to take your advice. I might just not take your advice out of protest, basically, against your actions, even though you might have solid advice for me. More importantly, don't quote someone else's build or say that, look, this pro said you have to build that and that. This guy said you have to build that and that. I repeat myself here a little bit, but I want to stress this again because it's really, really important. If that player doesn't like a certain pro or whatever, they're just going to be completely resistant to the advice. So you telling them that is just gonna infuriate them. Okay, that's the one part for in the game. Then there's after the game. If the person needed the advice and was willing to take it, then you can help them more by telling them after the game, look, hey, look up this person, he does whatever, guides for supports, check him out, he does updated builds so and so often, it might help you. That's something you can do, like be supportive, help people to understand, help people to learn, help people to improve if they are willing to. But don't force anything down their throat. Especially not when you're not 100% familiar with the items and build and their synergies. For example, think the Veneno build. I imagine Veneno getting BM'd for this build so very often. Most people haven't ran the math behind it, and I just recently did. And if I would have seen Shifter's Shield being first item in one of my games before that, I would have been like, alright, he doesn't seem to know what he's doing. I would have been wrong, seeing the numbers now, but I wouldn't have done any more than that. I would have just been like, alright, I don't think that's a good early choice, I'm just gonna shut it and accept it. But in the end, his build works relatively well in certain scenarios, and I would imagine a lot of people would bash him if they just, watched other players, other streamers, other YouTubers recommend other builds and never mention it. And the guy would have been under constant harassment for something that is not necessarily wrong. And this goes for so many builds that have never been shown. Like, this is just one of the examples that has been mathed out now, but there are plenty of builds that have never been shown in any kind of way. So be very wary of what you're saying to people. They might just actually know better than you or have done some calculations with what they're doing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if anyone was to run Void Chill and Hunter and it would work out for them, for example. With that, I hope I cleared this topic up, and I hope I made my standpoint clear here. I want people to experiment. I want people to find out for themselves what's good. I like to give some kind of idea where you could look, what you could start with and try out. But in the end, going further than that is always better. There's also no harm in just sticking to the main basic builds, as long as you're not willing to branch out or you think that's the best option. That's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with building the same thing on a Hunter over and over. In other roles, you may have to adjust to the game, and sometimes it will make you lose DPS compared to the best DPS build or whatever. But that's just what it is. That's how this game works. And I hope that people try to, open their minds to some extent, and instead of bashing others for the idea, check what's behind that idea and if you could make that idea work for yourself. With that, thank you guys for watching. Duke Sloth, out.